topic that we have for today and for this session, modern Turkish literature, is, I think, a part of the grand effort of the festival to look at literatures from very, very different parts of the world. In particular, especially we living in India, because of our colonial legacy and because of Western rule here, we have tended to look at the West in a certain fashion, and we've been influenced a great deal by the West. One of the things and the responsibilities of a festival of this nature is also to try and make the greater attempt to look at literatures from different parts of the world, whether those are from Africa, the West Indies, South America, Middle East, Turkey, etc., etc. And it's also because so many different parts of the world have had such a big impression on literature in very, very different ways. So it's my absolute privilege and pleasure to have three extremely well-known people who have contributed to the letters to the vocation of letters in Turkey. And I will drive straight into my questions. What we will do is, for the first 50 minutes or so, we will be in discussion with each other. In the last 10 minutes, we'll open it up to the audience for their observations and for their thoughts. To my right is Nermin. Nermin is an extremely well-known literary agent, has established a literary agency called Kalem, and which has been making waves in Turkey for a while. I first want to ask Nermin to give us and to set some sort of a broad context in terms of what her literary agency does, what sorts of people has it published, why does she publish those kinds of writers, etc., etc. She's also worked a great deal in promoting translation into the Turkish language from other parts of the world. So if you can speak a little bit about Kalem and your work, I think that will set the scene very nicely for this session. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here. This is not my first time. I'm sure that it will not be last. I'm very happy to work for the Indian publishers in Turkey and to see our books in all Indian languages. I established Kalem Agency 20 years ago, and to summarize what I do, you know, gossiping, right? I mean, you do gossip. I mean, we hate gossips, but we sometimes do that. I am professional gossiper. I gossip about books. I read books, and I go somewhere, you know what, this is a good book. You know what, this is a wonderful book. Why don't you translate it? And I do the both ways. So I am both way agenting. So I talk about Turkish books when I'm abroad, and talk about foreign books when I'm in Turkey. This is how I make money. So I get the commission from all the deals. And we are usually silent people. People don't talk about agents because we try to be backside. And agents are agenting story started in the States 100 years ago. First international agent was an American man who started to agenting first for the TV companies, and then he was the literary agent for the books. And then agents started in France, Germany, and UK. And for for 8 decades, they were only the agents in the world. The countries like Turkey, Bulgaria, Georgia, Serbia, or Estonia, they didn't have the agents. So what happens if you don't have these professional gossiping people, you don't promote your books abroad because, a book itself is a wonderful thing, right? I mean, you read a literary, wonderful piece of literature, but if you don't promote it, no one knows about it, so it will not be translated. And it is, I make money, but it's also good for our nations, but not for one nation. It is all the international nations. So, we learn about Estonia through a Estonian novel, even though the main aim is not the promoting the country, but we learn about the capital, the lifestyle, and how they fall in love. So this is, I love my job. I mean, I used to have some other professionals, but I really enjoying what I'm doing. It's wonderful to be here with my writers, and it's a great chance to see the world through the books.
Thanks. Thank you so much for that, Nermin. I'll come back to you in just a bit. To her right is Firat Sunel, the Honorable Ambassador of Turkey to India. He's also a novelist, has also been a lawyer, absolutely fascinating person. I'm going to speak to him a little bit about his novel. His latest novel has also been translated in Malayalam. I'm going to speak to him, I'm going to ask him a little bit about how he combines being both a professional diplomat and being a writer. And once he responds to that, I'll have a follow-up question to you. So my first question to you is like, how do you combine both these things? Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your nice words, first of all. So I started my diplomatic career more than 30 years ago as third secretary. And then I become second secretary, and then first secretary. The highest diplomatic person at the Ministry of External Affairs in India is foreign secretary. You see, our ranks are associated with the word secretary. Secretary means writing. It comes from a Latin word, secretarius. It means confidential writer. So we diplomats, normally we write too much. We like writing, and we do. But most of the time, of course, we write confidential reports. So just for internal use. And if they are not confidential reports, then they are non-fictions. So there are thousands of diplomats who write non-fiction, such as political analysis, articles on international relations. But fiction is also very rare in diplomacy, because fiction means inspiration and diplomacy means reality. You shall not mix both of them. But even it's a rare concept, we have so many diplomats who are also writers, starting from very well-knowns. There are, I think, 7 or 8 writers who have also Nobel Literary Prize, like Neruda, Octavio Paz, Ivo Andrić, or the first female author in South America, Gabriele Mistral, or Yorgos Seferis. So they were all ambassadors and writers. And in contemporary time, we also have some examples. In India, India's Minister of External Affairs has lots of examples. Vikas Sivaru, for example, my good friend, is a very famous, world-famous author. And Ambassador Sarma, he had also very high-level positions at the Ministry of External Affairs. In Turkey, this is not very common that an ambassador writes fictions. I think I am now the only example at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But how can I combine being an ambassador and an author? This is, as a matter of fact, not a difficult issue. We always say the best stories come when different cultures come together. It can be clashes of cultures, or the cultures can embrace themselves. But when they come together, the best stories come. And then our profession. I have been a diplomat for 30 years, and I have been all over the world. And in my each post, I know new people, new culture, new food, new climate, new smells. Everything is new. So, and all those travels around the world, they are a source of inspiration for me. So that's why I can say diplomacy and literature, they fit themselves. This is very, obvious. But there are, of course, also difficulties being a diplomat and a writer. The language is totally different. In diplomatic language, you have to write, what is more important for you is it has to be correct. And ambiguous words you have to refrain from. Your foot need to be solid on the ground as a diplomat. And you are not taking care of the aesthetic of the words. The main issue, it must be correct, not beautiful. But the literary language, it is totally opposite. You can use slangs, you can use swear words, there is no limit. There is no limit for your inspiration as well. And you don't need your foot to be solid on the ground. You just need a pair of wings which make your readers fly. So these are two different things. And that's why you have to separate the inks. This is an expression. When you write diplomatic text, you have to concentrate on, you shall not mix it with literature. But when you write literary text, like novels or poets and so on, you have to use a different ink. Otherwise, if you mix both of them, your reports would smell like literature, and your novels smells like reports, and nobody would read your novels, of course.
That's a lovely answer and a lovely window into Firat's world of being both a diplomat. He was also a lawyer and a writer. Over to Fuat. Fuat himself has led a very interesting life. Just tell us a little bit, Fuat, about how you got into writing, writing and translation. Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to thank Rahul for the moderation in advance, and all of you being here, listening us and sharing Turkish literature with us. I am the unconfidential part of writing. My ambassador is the confidential part, because I have a novel in Malayalam. It's called Grand Bazaar. It comes from Grand Bazaar of Istanbul. Maybe some of you know. Grand Bazaar of Istanbul is the oldest shopping mall of history. It has been built in 14th century or 15th century, and it is one of the biggest one, and it has a story. I tell myself unconfidential because I like to play with this story. The history as of a discipline tells us something. According to nations, according to governments, according to different religions, whatever, kings, etc. But as of people, we live something else. So I try to write these. When we should turn back to my novel, what I wish to remind to people was that locations, settings, make us come together. Just like this festival of Mathrubhumi, just like Kerala. So we don't have to forget about settings, locations. And in Kerala, I myself feel at home. Where do you feel yourself at home? Please keep this question in mind. Where do you feel yourself at home? Apart from your houses. Sometimes, even at your houses, you don't feel at home, but somewhere you feel at home. This can be a city, a part of a building. I mean, some of you are students, and at a yard of the school, a corner can make you feel at home. You make gossips. You tell someone about I'm fond of that girl or that boy, or I was good at. This is your home. So where do you feel your home? I just want to remind people that there are some locations that make you feel home, and the second point, that makes us come together. Whoever we are. We have different ethnicities, different languages, different beliefs, different ways of life. No matter. We come together, we discuss. We don't have to feel and think about the same thing afterwards, but we come together and share opinions, talk. So I try to remind people this by my novels. And when it comes to translation, I have some both hats. I'm a writer and also a translator. Mostly know my translations of James Joyce to Turkish. I make translations from English and from Italian.
If I can just interject, Fuat has translated, of all people, James Joyce and James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, which is one of the most complex, difficult novels written in the English language. And that he's translated into Turkish. He's also translated Oscar Wilde into Turkish. He's also translated James Joyce's, I think, his first semi-autobiographical novel, A Portrait of the Artist. But how did he do it, especially Finnegan's Wake?
Well, not to talk about much, but Joyce is important. How I did it, I don't know. I was drinking whiskey one night, so it was Irish, so it started. But the point about translating James Joyce, I myself feel myself at home when I translate Joyce, because it's about Dublin, but we have the same problems. We have the same conflicts. When I read something from contemporary American literature, I don't feel at home. Because they always tell about loneliness. I am so bored, I am so alone. I don't know why I am bored, but I am so bored. Okay, I am in depression. This is made up. This is a synthetic word, really. When it comes to Indian literature, to Turkish literature, we are at home because we have same things: gender problems, ecology problems, labor, whatever. So I try to translate and write whatever I feel at home.
Right. Thank you so much for that answer. There's also one more thing I want to remind our audience, which I'm sure you would know, that the connections that our own country has with Turkey goes back such a long time. So which is why I'm absolutely not surprised when you say you feel at home here, because, you know, at some level of our collective subconscious, we've been interacting for such a long amount of time. My next question is to Nermin again. You've done so much with bringing, say, the outside world, so to speak, into the Turkish language by translation and this and that, and other efforts. Could you tell us a little bit about how, you know, you've also, you know, got writers, you know, works that have been translated from Romanian, from Serbia and other places. Do you know these languages, or how do you know, as an agent, as an editor, as a you know, who works in that space within book publishing, that somebody who's writing in a language that I don't know is a good writer, and that voice needs to come into Turkish?
Well, as I said, I am a professional gossiper, and I gossip with translators. Translators are our secret agents. They are the cultural attaches of our work, because when I meet a person from, let's say, Serbia, so I say, who is the most famous Serbian writer? So I don't read any other languages, so I have to trust these translators. But that person could be also a shop owner or any social worker. So I travel a lot. I think I've been to more than 80 different countries. So whenever I go, I talk. I mean, I will ask you after the section, I mean, who is your favorite Malayalam writer? It's you. We will talk about your work. So, I mean, who is your favorite? So I gather all of them. So we are like making network. We are like spiders. So we make the network. So, oh, this is the Malayalam favorite. So this is the Tamil favorite. So let's talk about them back home. So this is what we do. And of course, we have to talk about the governments. I know Kerala state is a very leftist wing state. I'm very happy to be here, but apart from the political view, some countries they really aware of this. Investing in literature is the cheapest and more efficient and very long-term investment. So they want to support their culture. Turkey has a support program and very good program. And if there's a Malayalam publisher wants to translate from Turkish, they may apply to our program and they can get supported. It is not a political thing. It is definitely only the sake of literature.
Thank you for that answer. I'll come back to you. I have a question for Firat. Firat has written very movingly about his last couple of novels. One is called The Lighthouse Family, and the other one is called The Land of Sleeping Willows. Both have, I think, been translated in Malayalam. And there's a beautiful phrase that he uses. One story deals with childhood, and I think there's one character who says that. My homeland is childhood. Could you talk a little bit about your stories and what you were trying to do in the Lighthouse Family?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I start, I would like to make some advertisement. So this is my novel Lighthouse Family, published recently by Penguin. And this is the Malayalam translation of the Lighthouse Family. It has been published also recently. And this is my first novel published in Malayalam 2 years ago, so they are all available. So your question, your childhood is your homeland. So this is a phrase from a very famous philosopher, lived in Anatolia, Western Anatolia, more than a millennium ago. My novel, Lighthouse Family, this is my last novel. It is a historical fiction. All the story is told through the eyes of a little boy living a lighthouse far away from everything. They had a very boring life in a lighthouse, because lighthouse is far away from everything. They live with their family. He lives with 2 siblings. And most excited thing which can happen a day is just the ships passing by. There is nothing to do. And the closest village is 1 hour on foot. Then the Second World War spreads to Aegean Islands. The German planes bombed Chios and Lesbos just in front of the lighthouse. And then we see how their boring life change, but not in the good direction, in a very compelling and touching direction. So in the old book, you feel the childhood, because our narrator is a child. Even when he grew up at the end of the book, you still feel the childhood. So this is very important, because your childhood form your future. What you are in your child, as you are a child, you become the same person when you get old. So that's why it's very important. And where you were born and grew up, so the most important memories in your mind, these are just from those periods. So, we all feel the places where we were born or raised as our homeland, and that's why it's very important. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Fuat, could you again tell us a little more in a little more elaborate detail about the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul, which has been translated in Malayalam as well? And what were you aiming with a story of that nature, right? What were you doing with the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul?
Sorry, could you?
Yeah. My question is your novel, your work of fiction, The Grand Bazaar. What were the things that you were trying to do which you hadn't done before as a writer in that particular book?
Okay.
Right.
Apart from Grand Bazaar, I told about this because it is in Malayalam and in English and some other languages. Actually, I have 5 novels and 2 short storybooks for children, and translations, etc.
Of course, Fuat has also written a lot for children. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but in general, as I told, we all have some major problems in our life. I'm not talking about traumas. This is like TV series. All we have traumas. All we are in delirium. Not this. But we have something that affects our lives, our thoughts. So at every book I write, I come to some same topics. My ambassador told about the family of Lighthouse, which takes place at the Aegean side of Turkey. It's an isolated place. At the other hand, Grand Bazaar is a so crowded place, people gather around, etc. But whatever we talk about ourselves, either isolated or with big crowds. So I try to reflect this. And I have asked something to you. Please keep in mind. I thought, where is your homeland and where do you feel your home? A second question, deriving from my literature and my writing maybe. When does your relation start with a location? I mean, we are here at the festival hall. So, did it start when we came here? My novel, it is in Istanbul. It takes place in Istanbul. It doesn't start in Istanbul. It starts something else where the marbles are constructed, and because that construction, that building is also something about the labor in it. So, it doesn't start in Istanbul. Just like this, we are here in Kerala, but our story did not start with our flight. It started with when Nermin called me, would you like to come? And Mr. Firat is there. And maybe it started 15 years ago when I knew nothing about Kerala, when I started writing. So I try to reflect and remind people all those things about us. So where I wonder about is things like that.
Thank you so much. I have now a set of questions where all of you all can respond, as you deem fit, and this, please take it, in any way, you'd want to respond to it. I have a question about readership in Turkey, and because here in India and in other parts of the world, there has been I think Kerala is quite an exception in terms of sales of books, in terms of a reading culture. People, certainly, Kerala have been reading for a very long time. There's a circulating library system. There's a lot that happened in the state of Kerala to promote reading and serious reading across, different parts of Kerala. Many things happened. Now, what's the reading culture in Turkey like? We'd like to know. We don't know. Are young people in Turkey reading? Are they interested in books? Because globally, many parts of the world, people are now hooked to their smartphones. They're watching television. They're watching Netflix, whatever. So it's reading and I'm also saying this as a teacher, because I find reading has taken reading as an act of pleasure, as an act of, something to look forward to. All that seems to have had, taken a beating. So what's it like in Turkey, and what's it like with especially young people in Turkey? All of you, please, if you can, one by one.
Well, I can tell about that half of the market, the books published, are translated from different languages in Turkey. So we are very open to the world. We read books from Argentina, we read books from Latvia, I want to hear about our writers, but the population of reading is not growing. I cannot say that we don't read, we are not a reading culture, but the population is not growing. That worries me.
Before the number of readers in Turkey, I'd like to remind people that we are all of us talking that, oh, the youngsters are not reading. They are terrible. They are on TikTok. They are on TV series. They are playing Game Watch, whatever. No, they are reading. When I was young, I was at the class. We were 40. 2 or 3 of us were good readers. Some maybe 5 or 6 extra was not bad, but not great readers, and the rest was not reading. It is just the same at the Posen. So people are always reading, whether the generations, whether the technology, whether the television, no problem. People like to read. People like to get enlightened. So people always read, we adults or the youngsters. When it comes to number of readers in Turkey, I would like to tell a memory of mine. I was in a symposium abroad and an academician from Netherlands came and we started to talk just like this. Do people in Turkey read? And I said, no, it's terrible. I mean, it must be much better, but I don't know if the lady told me, well, I can guess, but Netherlands is something like 15 million. Turkey is 85 million, right, approximately. If 10% of Netherlands is good readers, it is still much less than Turkey. And when it comes to India, I believe that, I don't know about Kerala, but I saw bookstores. I saw some people selling books on streets. I saw so big crowd in all the halls at this festival. So people are reading. And in Turkey, in Istanbul, we have something like TÜYAP kind of book festival. Every year we say, oh, I won't go this year. I'm so bored. I'm in the same thing. But then we go there. And we see the eyes, the glimpse at the eyes of those youngsters. And still it's so crowded. People are reading, people will read, we will write novels, short stories, and they will be read.
Yes, I would like to also add some words. You don't buy a book if you don't read it, right? Because you pay. So during COVID time in Turkey, 2021, there were 440 million books published in Turkey.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And our population is, as you said, just 85 million. So it means 5 to 6 books per head. This is really a big number. Not, of course, all of them are literary works, but the number is very high. And the literacy rate in Turkey is also very high as in Kerala. This is 96 to 97%. I think the Turks, we have a big progress in reading books. 10 years ago, that was very rare when you are in a tram, bus, or metro that you see people reading. But now I start seeing them. So it's a good direction. And with book fairs in Turkey, there are really big book fairs, and one of them is in Istanbul, TÜYAP. And India was guest of honor country last year, just a couple of months ago. When I was in Turkey, I used to go to all book fairs, and I really could not find any space even to step. So these are so popular in Turkey.
Oh, great! Wonderful to hear all this. I want to talk. Yeah, thanks. I want to talk a little bit more to all of you about what is the impression or of Indian writing in Turkey at the moment. Who are the names of Indian authors that Turkish people are familiar with, who are very well known, things like those, if you can respond to that.
Okay, so the secret is, in order to make your books read, you have to be very famous, or you need good translations and publishing. So in Turkey, most famous English Indian author is Tagore, of course. Because we don't need to advertise for him. He is winner of literature prize. The same in India, Orhan Pamuk is very famous, everybody knows, because of the same. I like, for example, Tagore. He's very, very famous. And in Ankara, when you please visit Turkey and when you go to our capital, please search in Google Map. There is a street, Tagore Street. And you will see also his bust on the street. And his works were translated by our former Prime Minister, Bülent Ecevit, into Turkish. So there are lots of books. Let me say, for example, one of the famous books is the God of Little Things. This is very famous in Turkey. And yes, even Vikas Svarup, his novels are also translated and sold in Turkey. Other authors, okay, he's a politician and authors, but Shashi Tarur, his books are also available in Turkey. So these are just some books come to my mind. I don't know whether you
Right, so there's a lot of Kerala presence in Turkey is what he's saying, right? Okay.
I just want to end, again, I just read Arundhati Roy. This is part of my problem, but there's something else. Some 2 or 3 years ago, one of my novels also was translated to Pakistan, to Urdu. And I wondered who are the contemporary writers of Pakistan and also Hindustan, India. Some names appeared between age of 40, 50, I can guess. Most of them was living in London. Should we call them Indian writers, English writers? The same is for us. I mean, we have Elif Shafak. Is she Turkish? Yes, she's Turkish, but she lives in London, and so maybe again turning to the starting point, we must be directly in touch with Malayalam writers, Indian writers. So it is something more than Arundhati Roy. It is something more than Orhan Pamuk.
Right. Thanks. Yeah.
And I should mention about Karan Dazai is also very well known in Turkey.
Yeah, so there is a wide range of right-wing attack on the writers across the world. From India itself, we can see that there is a wide range of this kind of attack on the writings that writers put across, which is against the system maybe, or against a trend maybe. So how far that is penetrating to other countries, and how far we as youngsters or who are struggling to live in this right-wing era where we have opposing voices, where writing or literature itself can be a tool to defend the attack on the generation?
Well, very briefly, I can say that we don't have the official censorship in Turkey, so no publisher, no writer has to go to office and do that. So there's no that. But of course, in many countries, they have the self-censorship. So writers or the publishers try to be in the safe side. I think like when I started in the publishing house, it was worse, and it is getting better in Turkey.
I would like to add something to that. We were talking at a session in Turkey with some readers about EA, and one of the guys said, the machines, the computers are writing wonderful things, so will literature and the contemporary problem of all of us talking about this. It is really with no problem. And I told literature is something about problems, conflicts, our confusion in mind. Literature is something about being against the system. I'm not talking about just politics. Any kind of sociological problems, whatever. So, yes, we don't have legal censorship, and we have to face something. We have to be courageous. So if we are not courageous, we are not making literature.
Sir, I have a question. When we speak about Turkish literature, we are familiar with Orhan Pamuk and Burhan Sönmez. But I have a question that there are writers like Ahmed Umud who is writing with crime fiction. But I have a serious question asking because there is a writer called Elif Shafak. So there are women writers from Turkey. For example, Defnes Woman is a writer. So we would like to know more about the role of women writers in Turkey.
Wonderful question. Thank you so much. Yeah. The role of women writers in Turkey.
Well, I couldn't get the end of the question, so he wants to get more names from Turkish literature. Women. Well, I can give the name wonderful writer. I'm sure that you will agree with me. Ayfer Tunç. Ayfer Tunç is also published by Green Books. It's available in. Actually, she was supposed to come here, but because of her busy schedule, she couldn't make it. Hopefully, next year, Ayfer Tunç will be here. So, if we don't have any more questions, I want to ask you something. Okay, so everyone knows about Orhan Pamuk and Elif Shafak, how to pronounce it. But can you please join me how to pronounce two wonderful writers here? I will tell their names, and could you please repeat their names very loudly together with me? Are you ready? Okay. I'm starting with Fuat Sevimay. Can you repeat with me? Fuat Sevimay. Can you please again? Loudly, please. That's good. And the second writer, Firat Sunel. Louder, please.
Firat Sunel.
Thank you very much. Now you have two more names from Turkey. Thank you.
I think we should also pronounce Nermin's full name, Nermin Mollaoglu. Please continue. Nermin Mollaoglu. That's it. So we've got, our audience is quite familiar with Turkey.
They should follow us in Instagram.
Right. Please follow them on Instagram and please buy their books. Now, we know that in almost all the languages in the world, there's no one version of the language in which writing happens. And there are different dialects and there are different identities. In different parts of, say, a state like Kerala, different versions of Malayalam are spoken. In the north, different versions of Hindi, Hindustani are spoken. What happens to, writing in Turkey and Turkish? What sort of the version of Turkish gets published? And what happens, how's the accent or the dialect question, negotiated in writing in Turkey?
Well, we say that Turkey has 80 million population. 20 of them live in Istanbul. So main language is Istanbul Turkish. And most of the books are published in Istanbul accent, let's say. But there are some exceptions. For example, both writers wrote books about Izmir, and Izmir, Smyrna is the Aegean coast of Turkey. So they use the phrases from Izmir city. I think it's about the story.
Yes, I just want to add one word. The books in Turkey are published in Turkish, and this is an advantage, of course, because in India there are 22 official languages, and one book, if you want to go to all regions, all states, the books translated in different languages and then distributed. These are all some logistical issues, of course, but when you publish a book in Turkey, just in Turkish, and then it's available all Turkey. So we don't have big differences from the region in terms of the language. We all speak Turkish, but I cannot tell it dialect, but maybe in some regions we have different accents. And we emphasize these accents if necessary in our books, so that reader knows the speaker or narrator in the book is from northern or southern. This is the only difference.
Maybe I should give a sample from not Turkey, but from Italy and Ireland, because of the countries where I do know the literatures because of my translations. In James Joyce, yes, it's English, but readers call it Joycean. Not Anglo-Irish, not English, but this is Joycean. He has some made-up words, etc., etc. When it comes to Italy, after Garibaldi, you know, they have Italian. I also translated something from Italy, Italo Suevo. He's a Triestine. He has a dialect. But just that, just like my ambassador's brief, at some part of it. But it is Italian. Also in Turkey, it is Turkish. Afterwards, we can use some dialects or some slang, jargon, whatever, but mainly it's in Turkish.
Hi, good afternoon. It was very wonderful listening to you all. And it is a lifetime thing, listening to Turkey writers, translators. It was great. Congratulations for that. And my question is, when you were comparing India and Turkey, you mentioned about gender inequality, gender thing. So are there any works where we have mentioning about gender inequality or LGBTQAI+, or homophobia? Are there any works? And what are your inclinations towards homophobia and the people who are deviating from the so-called sexual and gender normativity?
I'm not sure if I get the questions. I mean, do we have the books in these issues in Turkey? Yes, we do. But usually, I mean, to be honest, they don't show the ear, but sometimes they do like that. So it's this kind of approaches. But there are some encouraging, improvement on that.
Maybe I should add to that. As I told, literature and writers and artists in any way must be more courageous than the general society. In Turkey, like rest of the world, like probably India, we have gender problems, we have bit homophobia, not so big, but we still have. But when it comes to literature, we have some publishers who especially pay attention to LGBT novels or etc. We have writers, homosexual or lesbian, whatever. So writers must be more courageous, and yes, we have them, especially for feminist reading, both in academia and in literature world, in publishing world. There are so many topics, so many names, maybe more than other topics, because this is one of the main things that we must deal. So yes, we have in Turkey.
I'd like to know which is the most popular food from Turkey and what's your favorite cuisine?
Well, for dessert, it is baklava. Is my favorite dessert, and for the food, I think all kind of dishes with aubergine with the meat. This kind of food I like very much.
So I would like to add as well, baklava is very well known in India as well. And döner, the Arabic people say it's shawarma, but both names are Turkish, shawarma or döner. It means the same. I talk with lots of Indians who visit Turkey and come back. And then they are all happy with Turkish food. I think Turkish food just also addressed to your taste. And I just want to tell something, it is not very well known in India. People think that Turkey is poor in vegetarian food, but this is not true. Turkey is very rich in this regard. But when you are vegetarian and go to Turkey and want to eat something, please don't say vegetarian food, because the term vegetarian food is an Western term for us. When you tell the waiter, please bring me something vegetarian, you know, he would bring you just some salad. But when you say, please bring me some zeytinyağlı, please note it. Zeytin means olive. Zeytinyağı means olive oil. And when we make something in Turkey, zeytinyağlı, it means with olive oil, it is 99% vegetarian. So when you say, please, I just want to eat zeytinyağlı, then you will see hundreds of different species. So, thank you.